So once again, thank you, Elevate. Thank you guys for coming. Yes, again, thank you. So like I was saying, there's 53 mitzvot in Parashat Mishpatim. Almost 10% of the Torah is this week's parasha. One of the psukim, Rav Shlomo Amar explains very fascinating, very impactfully. Someone who, God forbid, hits their parents shall be put to death. And the pasuk concludes, and someone who, God forbid, curses their parents will also be put to death. Good? So Mike asked, what's the punishment? What's the difference? So, if everyone remembers, on Yom Kippur, part of our tefillah, we the whole day of Yom Kippur is we're repenting, we're coming back to Hashem. And in the tefillah on Yom Kippur, we mention this phrase often: Sekila, Serefa, Hereg, V'chenek. Okay, those are the 4 capital punishments. In the Jewish court in Yerushalayim, they had a capability of capital punishment. There are 4: Sekila, stoning; Serefa, Hereg, and Chenek. Sekila is the most severe, downward. Sekila, Serefa, Hereg, V'chenek. Chenek is strangulation, that's the least severe. Okay? Now, when the Torah says shall be put to place to death, it can be one of these 4 options. So the the Gemara actually explains, someone that, God forbid, hits their parents, what's the punishment? The punishment is death, obviously, mot yumat, Torah says, but by chenek, by strangulation. It's a capital punishment, but it's the least severe of the 4 capital punishments. Now, what about what? Chenek. No. The Sekila Serefa is hot lead. Yeah. Hereg, I think, is beheading with a sword, and chenek is strangulation. If I remember correctly. Good question. Someone who, God forbid, hits their parents and causes a bruise, causes bleeding, put to death, of this category, of chenek.
Is it like with 2 and...
Yes, it needs to be with warning and hatra and edim, yeah, of course. But what about the last clause? Kalel avimo motumat. Someone who, God forbid, curses their parents should put to death. What type of capital punishment is that? The Gemara says... Okay, good. The Gemara says that cursing your parents, the capital punishment is with sekila. It's with stoning. And the Rav Shlomo Amar asked a very simple, powerful question. I don't understand. If, God forbid, someone hits their parents, they only get put to death with the lesser of the severe. But cursing your parents, mekalel, is sekila, is most severe. It seems counterintuitive. It seems backwards.
Cursing is worse than...
Bingo. Cursing has a more severe punishment than hitting. Rav Shlomo Amar asks, how can it be? How on earth is that possible? How is the Torah? Why is it? What's the idea? What's the lesson behind this? It's actually interesting. The Baal HaTurim writes that Mekalel Aviv, Kalel Aviv, has the same gematria as Sekila. If you do the numeric calculation of the letters Kalel Aviv, that's the same calculation as Sekila. So we see that it's a hint that that someone who, God forbid, curses their parents gets a Sekila. Now the Ramban asks, how can it be? Why is cursing more severe than, God forbid, hitting? And the Ramban says something very fascinating. He says, they were more strict with the capital punishment of someone who curses their parents. It's a fundamental, fascinating insight to the human psyche, because the curse, the sin of cursing is more common than the sin of hitting. Shakesil, because the Ramban says, someone who's dumb, who's not so smart, kasher yichas v'yitkatzef, when he gets angry and stubborn, what's he going to do? How is he going to react? V'kilel b'molcho, v'uvavi v'imo tamid kol hayom. Someone who gets angry, it's in his nature, it's in his DNA, that after he gets angry, his first response is to, God forbid, curse. So the Ramban says, because it's in our nature, and it's more natural for us to curse versus hit, they were more severe, more strict, the Torah was more concerned with cursing and gave us more strict punishment when it cursed a parent than it does by hitting the parent. And Rav Shlomo Amar, to wrap up, says the whole idea behind this is to teach us something very important. The significance and the severity of our speech. At the end of the day, this mitzvah, the two different punishments, are coming to highlight for us and emphasize for us the severity and how careful we have to be with our mouths. Because if someone who hits their parents only gets chenek, someone who curses their parents with Hashem Hashem gets sekila, the Torah is shedding light in things that we have to work on. And the Torah understands and is highlighting that, says Rav Shlomo Amar, that our speech and our conversation is something that we need to take control over, lest we, God forbid, come to this stage of cursing our parents out, God forbid. And he says, people have a fallacy, a misconception that my speech isn't so bad. I didn't touch anyone, I didn't abuse anyone, I didn't hurt anyone. I spoke, I said lashon hara, I said rechilut, I cursed, I spoke negatively, I lied. It's not that bad. The Rav Shlomo Amar is highlighting from this pasuk that mentality is completely inaccurate. It's completely flawed. It's completely wrong. That what? Our speech is very important. What comes out of our mouth shouldn't be taken lightly whatsoever. We have to think before we speak. We have to don't be impulsive. Anytime we open our mouth, we have to think it over a few times. Like someone who wants to prepare a speech, he says it over a few times to be fluent at what he wants to say. That level of preparedness we have to be anytime we talk, because our speech is lethal if we say something negative. I give this example all the time. Something I hate the most is, you guys aren't at the stage yet, but hopefully when you get there, is when a guy goes out with a girl for marriage, not for stupidity high school, and it doesn't work out. Okay, there's two mentalities. The one approach is to go tell all his friends it didn't work out. The other approach is to keep it to yourself. Or, for example, a guy comes to you as a friend, not as a counselor, as a friend. Hey, Mike, what do you think about this girl? And he says a name. Very often, it's very normal for young guys, a girl's name come up and someone make a snarky comment. Oh, she's so this, she's so that. Besides the lashon hara and the rechilut, at this stage in your lives, it's even more severe. Why? Because how do you know what this guy's thinking? Maybe if it's not him, we have 10 guys at the table, one guy says a girl's name. Maybe this guy is thinking about her, and maybe I'm going to ask her out. But then he sees my reaction, no, she's so this, she's so that. That reaction will subconsciously push him away from even pursuing it. So I always say, especially at this stage in your life, don't speak about others, especially girls, especially the other gender, because we don't know who's listening and we don't know the effect it can have on someone. My taste is like this. Your taste might be different, but if I say something negative, it'll discourage someone else from pursuing that option. And it's so important in groups of guys and girls. You don't know what your friends are thinking. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it. I'm not talking about if someone comes to you for counseling. There's laws about lashon hara. We learn about them in the morning, so you can talk about it after. But just regularly, a name pops up or something on Instagram comes up, don't blurt out something negative, because you don't know what other people are thinking. You don't know what someone else wants. And that one line can dissuade someone from asking out a girl, asking out a guy, whatever it is. So we have to be very sensitive about what we say. So Rav Amar highlights this point and says, never think that your speech is nothing. Never think that what you have to say it has no power. We have to train ourselves and understand that what comes out of our mouth is extremely powerful, is extremely sensitive, and we have to always be mindful.
Joey, no.
Now we'll wrap up with this. It's okay. Don't worry. We'll wrap up with this. Rav Amar takes us to a second point also. So now, very nice. I understand the severity and the importance of not speaking Lashon Hara, not speaking Rechilut. But what's the advice? What's the technique? What's the approach that I should do to start? So obviously it goes with learning the halachot and being aware always subconsciously about the severity of speaking negative about someone else. But Ramar is something very fascinating. He says, our mouths, the same mouth that speaks Lashon Hara, God forbid, that curses, God forbid, that lies, God forbid, is the same mouth that prays to Hashem, that asks for Hashem for refuah shalama, that asks Hashem for parnasah, that does chesed, that does tefillot, that learns Torah. And Amar says, with this mouth, it's a constant battle. It's a constant juggle. Our job is to do more mitzvot than avrot with this mouth. The same mouth that you pray with can't be the mouth that you curse with. It can't. The same mouth that we learn Torah with can't be the mouth that we speak Lashon Hara with. It can't. So we have to overcome and work on ourselves, that we have to use our mouths for Torah and Tefillah. Now how? The more the merrier. In any language. I always give the analogy of our grandparents. Our grandparents, whether it was culturally or just the society or just naturally, were much more religious than we are. I'm not saying more observant. They didn't necessarily have the education that we all have. But if anyone who speaks to their parents, their grandparents, or great-great-grandparents, depending on how old your grandparents are,
they always say like Chodah.
Bingo. They're always mentioning Chodah. They're always mentioning God. It's just part of their DNA. They're not necessarily as observant as I am, but that's because they weren't educated. But the thinking and talking and thanking God was always on their language, on their mind and on their tongues. So I propose we learn that from our ancestors. That what? All day, every day, anytime something small happens in your life that's good, thank you Hashem. Wherever you are, on the train, at the office, at your desk, make a good sale, Baruch Hashem. Constantly train ourselves. The BH movement, I always say, I'm very pro. Everyone is always texting BH, Bezat Hashem or Baruch Hashem. Either God willing or thank God, thank you Hashem. I'm very pro it, even if they don't know what it means.
TYH.
Thank you Hashem, very good. Even if you don't know what it means. But subconsciously, we're always thinking and talking about God. That way, when our mouth is busy thanking God, we won't have enough time to, God forbid, curse someone. When we're praying to Hashem, I don't have time to speak negatively about someone. When I'm learning Torah, I have no time to lie. And it's up to us to learn from this. How come the punishment of cursing our parents is more severe than, God forbid, hitting someone's parents? To highlight this point that we have to be extra careful with what comes out of our mouth, very sensitive, very mindful, and in that zechut, we'll only see good things in our lives. We'll see, and he says, he wraps up with the famous David HaMelech. David HaMelech writes in Tehillim, Mi haish hechafetz chaim. Who is the person that desires life? Who wants long life? Rabbi Levian beautifully explained what's the common denominator of all successful people?
Shachari.
Not necessarily yes, Shachari, but getting up early.
Yeah.
Starting your day on a good note with tefillah, with the connection to Hashem. But David HaMelech asks, who is the person that desires life? What does he say? Ohev yamim lirotov, someone who loves his days to constantly see good. Netzor leshonecha mera, usfatecha midaber mirma. Protect your mouth from speaking negativity and your lips from speaking deceitfulness. Ve'achaim be'ad halashon. The Chavetz Chaim, the Rav Shlomo Amar, Shlita, wraps up by saying, our lives are all at the hands of our tongues. Like David HaMelech says, who wants long life? Someone who protects his mouth from deceit and evil doing and lashon hara. And it sounds so lofty, but it's very attainable. It's very achievable. One time a day, you want to say something that'll put someone down. You hold yourself back. That's the start. 5 minutes a day, from 8:05 to 8:10 a.m. You're consciously saying, "I'm not going to speak negative about anyone else." You're not always speaking negative, but that conscious effort to be mindful will have an impact on your entire day. That I don't have to talk about someone else. I don't have to speak negatively about them. Let me worry about myself first. And in that zechut, says Shlomo Amar, will merit to see a lot of good things, to receive bracha from Hashem, and have healthy, happy lives with our family and our loved ones around us. Chazak u'baruch.